Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone, and it's caught! Jelani Woods! Touchdown! INDY!
A 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Galloway drives all the way to the hole, throws it up, got it! Indiana's got their first lead of this contest.
I mean, that's a goddamn Emmy winner right there.
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hey, everybody, welcome aboard, and thanks a lot for joining us here on this Monday. We appreciate you being with us, as always, as we come to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, high atop the 18th fairway on this Monday. And as always, we start with the lively antics of our good friend, Greg Rakestraw, who always has a busy weekend, no matter what. And I'm sure that's continued. That you had a final football game to do, right?
That was last Friday night.
That was last Friday
and
night.
So from a play-by-play standpoint, this was all basketball. And then obviously there was yesterday where I had to earn my money after the first Colts loss in 6 weeks.
Yeah, that one stunk because they're I was looking at the playoff picture. They're right in the mix for the playoffs right now. So and doing a great job of staying in that. A place that no one thought that they would be, especially after Anthony Richardson went down. But Gardner Minshew has done a yeoman's job keeping them in contention, but a loss yesterday nonetheless.
It was, and you know, I kind of thought this would be a tough game for them. You know, we have kind of, doubled back on what we thought the Bengals game was going to be. When Joe Burrow first got hurt, all of a sudden what was going to be the toughest game left in the Colts schedule became, you thought it was going to be a win. Then Jake Browning played really well against the Jacksonville Jaguars on Monday night. Obviously, he continued that. It wasn't from the sources you thought would give the Colts fits. You look at T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and Boyd. They combined for 7 catches. Really only one of those was a big play to Higgins during the course of that game. It was the screen game. It was the tight ends. It was the offense not producing. The Colts had won games, but had gotten by with some mistakes and had gotten by with some margin for error. I thought that margin for error was going to be lesser against the Bengals, and the Colts just picked a bad time to have their worst game of the season. Yet they are still in a playoff picture. And while yesterday kind of, brings them closer to everybody else in the pack, because of the fact they've got 3 of 4 at home, everything is indoors now the rest of the way. Their lone road game is Atlanta. They play the Steelers and they play the Texans. And so simply put, if the Colts win out, the Colts really, I think, get to 10 and especially can win those games against both the Steelers as well as the Texans. I like their chance of being a surprise playoff team here in 2023.
Jared says, good morning from your friends down in Lanesville, by the way. Don't want to leave the great people of the city of Lanesville out. Let me tell you, I love that place. We missed the Heritage Festival this weekend or this year, but there's always time for another one next year. And so now where are you going forward? You've got a lot of high school basketball. Anything happened this weekend of note?
Well, from this past weekend, it was the Forum Tip-Off Classic at Southport Fieldhouse. So obviously 6 games. I had a chance to see Braylon Mullins, who I know is an IU target. He's a Purdue target. He's a Notre Dame target. You name the school, he's a target. He's a junior. The senior class is a little top-heavy with guys like Flory Badunga and Jack Benner. Obviously, Cannon Catchings leaving. It kind of affects the overall senior class. It's not the deepest senior class. The wealth of talent in the junior class in this state is just ridiculous. And Mullins is amongst that group. Greenfield beat Southport. Southport's not great. Southport, I thought, played well, especially in the first half. Greenfield won that game. I had Warren Central beating Center Grove. Center Grove's solid, no higher-end recruits on that team. Warren had played the toughest schedule in the state. They were 0-3 going into that game with their losses to Cathedral, Brownsburg, and Attucks. And so I knew Warren, with Chris Byers being back at Warren, they're going to be successful. Other results, Garin Catholic, last year's 3A runner-up, beat Heritage Hills. Trent Sisley played well. There's just simply more pieces that Guerin has as a whole. Noblesville's a really good team. Fishers, Noblesville, Westfield out of Hamilton County are all really good. And because those guys go north, this might be the first time really in 4A that I think the balance of power is more in the northern half of the bracket than it is in the southern half of the bracket. Lawrence North beat Fort Wayne. They did so without their tallest player in Kai McGrew, who is out due to illness. Lawrence North has now scored 70 or more in all 4 games they have played. But then maybe the team story of the night is Fishers. Fishers without Jalen Harrelson. Jalen Harrelson's now playing at LaPorte La Lumiere. Fishers has a couple of freshmen that are part of their team. They've got an underrated player by McKeenan Garner, who's been a movement over the course of the last couple of years. Garrett Weininger is really coaching him up. They hold Flory Badunga to 4 points, and they beat Kokomo by 22. Fishers already has one against Noblesville. That happened last Friday. I think this is a Fishers team that people forget. Fishers High School has only been open since 2007. They have still yet to win a boys basketball sectional. And because that sectional is so tough, it is by no means a guarantee that they will win that first sectional this year. But I think they're a team, if they can get out of that sectional, they might then circle their way all the way back to Indianapolis because they look to be a really tough out the first few weeks of the season.
What did they do to be able to hold Badunga to 4 points? Because that's a job that not many people can accomplish. He can usually get 4 points just by walking onto the court.
Well, to Flory's credit, he will not force bad shots. And he is still a guy that primarily is a rim runner, is a guy that is a putback machine. He has started to work more of a jump shot into his game, but it's still not something that is natural to him. Again, he is a high-end Division I prospect / NBA player because of what he does as a rebounder, because of what he does as a defender, because of what he can do as a passer. The shot is still a work in progress. And so that wasn't my game. I had the first 2. But from watching Flory last year, if you have a kid that is equal to him in size and you can then help off and double him, he's not going to force bad shots. So he didn't take all that many shots in that game on Saturday. And while Fishers doesn't have the height, what Fishers does have is the athleticism and kind of multiple players they can throw at him. But frankly, it's also the reason why Kokomo plays the schedule in which they do. Their schedule is very front-loaded. They tend to kind of play more of their North Central Conference foes in the back half of the season. So Kokomo will have Carmel coming up on Saturday, and Carmel is down this year. I saw Carmel on Friday night. They're really going to struggle to score this year. They're young, and so that game maybe isn't the test that it was from the year ago. They play in the Hall of Fame Classic, so they will see Attucks. They will see one of Brownstown Central or Brownsburg. They have their own holiday tournament, which has teams like Plainfield, Mount Vernon, Jeffersonville, that play in that. So Kokomo's going to be all right. And again, they will play, you would think, one of Fishers, Noblesville, Westfield, whether it's in the regional round of the tournament or in the semi-state round of the tournament. Kokomo's 2 losses have come to 2 of those teams I just mentioned in terms of Westfield and Fishers, who are both top 4 in the state.
Yeah, someone just mentioned a great question, wondering if Flory will be at the Kansas-Indiana game on Saturday on the other side of the stands, since it's an early game. Very, very. There's a possibility, I guess.
Maybe, but they play twice. They play Marion Friday night, and that's at Marion. And they play Carmel on Saturday night. So I don't know what Coach Peck would have in terms of a shoot-around. So it is possible, but he does have a busy weekend.
Absolutely. Coming up next, what is on the docket for you in ISC?
Busy week for us from a hoop standpoint, and not the huge 6-team event. We've had 3 of those each of the last 3 Saturdays. We'll get back to that with Kokomo's holiday tournament, the 22nd and 23rd. The Paul Logan Classic, 28th, 29th at North Central's got a really good field in it this year. And, of course, the Hall of Fame Classic. So we will pick that pace back up. But this week, it's just literally games every night. So Chatard Northwestern girls on Monday, LC Attucks on Tuesday. For those of you listening or watching in Indianapolis, my NDTV 23 will have that one on Tuesday. North Central and Carmel on Friday. Kokomo and Carmel on Saturday. So I have games to call this week: Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and of course the little matter of a Colts 4:30 home game against the Steelers coming up on Saturday afternoon.
And the importance of that game is immense because one of the teams that is of the three teams that are up there for the wild card berth right now, right in the middle of those is Pittsburgh. So
Jim, there is zero separation at this point. And sorry to step on you there, buddy, but the results of yesterday just kind of clouded the field. The biggest winner yesterday was the Browns. So the Browns have a 1-game lead on everybody else for that wild card position. They are 2 games back of the Ravens with 4 to play. So I'm not sure they're catching them. But for example, the Browns in the tiebreaker against the Colts because they came here and won back on October the 22nd. Obviously, they will play Pittsburgh and Cincinnati twice. And so they'll have potentially definitive tiebreakers on those 2 teams. Right now, there are 11 teams between 10-3 and 7-6. There are 5 7-6 teams. 2 of them are currently in spot 6 and 7. That would be Pittsburgh and Indianapolis. Again, I'm not overly concerned with tiebreakers yet, even though the Colts don't own them over the Browns and as well as the Bengals now. But the reason being is because the Colts play 2 of the other teams in that group. So again, I've thought all year, 10 gets you to the playoffs. The Colts are 7-6. So 3 out of 4, I think, gets the job done, especially if those 3 include wins against the Texans and the Steelers. So there's less of a margin for error for the Colts now, but everything is still out right there in front of them if they can take care of business against the Steelers coming up this week and other teams down the road.
We only have a minute left, but it's amazing to me how virtually every sports league, at least just what you talked about with the NFL, it's not mediocre. It is a water line that has really there's that dominant runaway team has gone away, and it has really equaled out. If you look at the Big Ten, if you look at college football, it is, man, I think that things have just gotten to a level, whether it's the portal for college athletics, but it's wild how the diversity and parity has spread out over the last 2 years or since COVID.
I would say this, Jim, there's some mediocrity there. It's okay to see mediocrity in terms of that because I'm not sure the Colts are more than an average football team, but they found ways to win games, and they also have the benefit of a user-friendly schedule. You would often hear the line about, a third-place schedule, fourth-place schedule. That really accounts for 3 games now, okay? And so in terms of the Colts having a third-place schedule, that means that they got the third-place team from the AFC East, they got the third-place team from the AFC West, and they got the third-place team in terms of the NFC West, which was the LA Rams. The biggest benefit for the Colts schedule this year is they play the NFC South, and all of those teams are under 500 at this point. Colts are 2-1 against that group. So the Colts just happen to dodge most of the other great teams in the AFC, with the exception of the Baltimore Ravens, which is clearly the Colts' marquee win at this point in time of the season. So there is some mediocrity there, but this is also kind of by design because we are now entering week 15 of the NFL season. And Jim, you don't want to know how many teams are actually officially eliminated from playoff consideration? 2.
Oh,
2.
man.
The Patriots and the Panthers. That's it. 30 NFL teams, while some of those odds are very long and remote, 30 NFL teams are technically alive for the playoffs today with 4 games left to play.
2 teams, one that has fired their coach and one that has some questions on what they're going to do with their coach in the Patriots and the Panthers that you mentioned. What's up next on ISC?
So Chatard Northwestern girls tonight, Lawrence Central Addicts boys on Tuesday night, and I get to broadcast, since you mentioned my buddy Jared, and I would assume that's my buddy Jared Wolf that is tuning in this morning. 1 game a year during the regular season. Through the power of technology, we send a crew to Lanesville, or I get to broadcast a game from home. And the game that fit into our schedule this year was Thursday night. So the 11-0 Lanesville girls got a huge win against Borden on Thursday night. That was 1-2 in the state in 1A. Lanesville takes on Crawford County, who is 11-1 on the season, and their lone loss was Borden in Cordon Central's tournament back in early November. So two teams that combined 22-1. So I get to call a game from home again to make sure that no bill collectors show up at Lanesville. I'll be in the studio up here in the Indianapolis area. I won't make the trip down to Harrison County. But that's my Thursday night. Friday night, North Central and Carmel. And so it is a full week for us. And again, you want to see Flory Badunga, get to Carmel in person Saturday night. If not, we've got you covered on ISC as well as my NDTV 23.
Greg Rakestraw from ISC TV. Thank you so much. We appreciate you, brother.
You got it, Jim. Take care.
You betcha. We'll see you next week. That's Greg Rakestraw joining us here from the ISC Sports Network, that you can find all of that action from Indiana high school sports. We've got Don Fischer coming up next. Back with that right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the How about that to rock and roll to get it started?
That was a good segment.
What?
The opening segment. How was Atlanta?
I got my Ted's hat on. I got to remember to talk about.
Oh, nice.
Ted's
Montana Grill.
Ted Turner. It's his sign is cool. It's a gigantic buffalo. It's in neon, and then it says Ted's across it. But I'm like, they don't use bison. They don't use the bison on the hat, which I lament.
Good morning, Don.
Morning.
How are you doing, sir? I was well, you had an easy trip back from Atlanta. You guys flew back probably Saturday evening or afternoon, I guess.
Right after the game. Yeah. That's always the good thing about being with the team. That's the good thing being with the team is you get to fly back right after the ball game if we don't have flight problems. But then the bad news is you have to go with the team when they go, and sometimes they go earlier than you want to. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, I know JD, buddy. He'd always like, let's go. He was always like, let's go. He was ready. They were ready to get to the tarmac, baby.
Yep. No question.
I'm sure it was a silent plane ride back.
Oh,
all things
not
considered.
nearly. Yeah, I mean, all things considered, it was. I mean, nobody was pleased about that performance, I don't think, especially the coaching staff. So,
well, Todd likes to talk about, and I always ask him about Todd Leary about. I use the Minnesota game where they got beat by like 40,000 points or something once up there at Minnesota.
When Damon Bailey was on the team, yeah.
And he said, Knight didn't say anything to us in the locker room. He didn't yell at us on the plane, which I thought was funny because I know that's his spot. He'd get him trapped on the plane.
Here we go, guys. 5 seconds.
The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by the Chop Shop, home of the Indiana football and men's basketball coaches shows. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this great December Monday morning. Hope you guys had a wonderful weekend getting ready for Christmas, and we've got a Christmas present for you. In the in the way of Don Fischer, as Don joins us now. Fresh off of the trip to Atlanta for Indiana to take on an Auburn team that looked like they are NCAA tournament ready right now. Bruce Pearl has had that team playing really well, and man, they just lit Indiana up, is all you can say.
Yeah, and whoever gets me as a Christmas present got coal in their stocking. So at any rate, no, it was not a pretty performance by Indiana, to say the least. I'm not even going to go there for this just at this point, because I want to just go back to the Michigan game for a minute and talk about how important that win was, because Indiana needed to start this Big Ten season off to a good start, and they got it with victories over Maryland and Michigan. And the Michigan game was won on the road. So anytime you get a road win, that's like feeling like you got 2 home victories. So that was huge. And I love the way Indiana performed in this game. They fought right down to the wire, because that game had a bunch of lead changes, a bunch of ties. Nobody ever led by more than 6 or 7 points. Gabe Cupps' defense on Doug McDaniel was spectacular. A kid that was averaging 20 points a game at 33 the previous contest against Oregon, and Cupps held him in check throughout the contest. I think he had 13 points in the ball game, something like that. Whatever the case,
but he was 3 of 14 from the field.
Yeah. I mean, he did not shoot the 3 ball worth a nickel. He had 0 for 4 from the 3-point line. I just thought Gabe Cupps' performance in this game was a difference maker, because McDaniel was so good coming into that contest from a scoring perspective. So, and then the front line just did all the scoring in this game for the most part. I say all, it wasn't all of it, but a great deal of it, to say the least. What a good all-around team effort it was against Michigan. And then we turn around and we come and play an Auburn ball club and get off to an unbelievable start, knock in 4 3-point field goals, which everybody's sitting there going, "Are you kidding me? This is Indiana."
That matched their season high, Don. Those 4.
I know. And they only had 1 after that. So the saddest part of the whole thing is it just didn't last very long. And I think sometimes teams have to learn from their mistakes. And this ball club got in there, got the big lead. I think all of a sudden they kind of thought this is going to be pretty easy. And the next thing you know, Auburn comes out there with a supercharger on their motor and literally took the game out of Indiana's hands, and did so just because they were more aggressive, had more energy, more fight, and they did it with like 10 different players. Everybody that came out of the floor gave them that same kind of energy level. And the guy that was supposed to be the star for the Auburn Tigers was their big guy inside, Janai Broom. They held him, basically didn't do anything in the ball game. I mean, not really anything that factored into why Auburn won the game. Yeah,
2 points.
So, but when you look at what Indiana did in this contest, they were shell-shocked, I think, after that first 22-10 lead. I think they became shell-shocked with just how hard Auburn played at that point, and they never recovered. And that's the saddest part of it, because, going into the second half, they got a little bit of a run going there with the Malik Renew. I think he had about 8 points in the very first part of the second half there. They got Indiana back within like 10 points or something like that, because they were down 18 at halftime. But Indiana didn't sustain it. And once that short run took place, Auburn, once again, just absolutely took over the game with their physicality, with their energy level, with how hard they played, and Indiana couldn't match it. And that's the one thing that bothers me the most, that Indiana could not match the energy level of this Auburn ball club.
No, and if you'd have told anybody that Johnny Broom would have 2 points on 1 of 6 shooting, and Gabe Cupps would have 11 points on 4 of 6 shooting, including 2 of 3 behind the 3-point line, that this game would have gone a different way, but it didn't. Auburn ends up with 6 different players in double figures. So like you said, they were getting it from everywhere. The big talk, and this is not the first time it's come up, but has been the substitution style of Woody. And he, after the game, was asked about it, and you could tell. I think he got a little ruffled after the second one, but he said, "Hey, if you go back and look, this is how I always have done it. This is how it's always been." At a certain minute mark, he brings guys in. He says, "Hey, I can't play these guys for 40 minutes," and I think most people understand that, but I don't know. It's the taking the out in mass. That I think is the question of taking Renew off the floor. That's the same time that you're taking either Mbako and Ware off the floor at the same time. And it's not that the bench in the last game as well. The bench did unbelievable. But in this game, unfortunately, I know at one time I looked down and the bench points were 30 something to 3. And that was a gigantic difference in this game.
Great, no question. And Woodson is going to do. He's going to coach the way he feels is the right way to coach. I understand that, and I think there's always a question when you take out guys that are hot. And I've heard this for years. It's not just been Mike Woodson or Archie Miller or Tom Crean but guys who are firing shots up there and they're knocking them down, and all of a sudden they get taken out of the ball game because I think they need a blow or whatever. A coach thinks they need a blow. But you know what? When a guy's hot, you ride that horse as long as you possibly can. And yeah, you might take him out for a minute or two, but you don't take him out for much longer than that. And you do it, you time it with a television timeout. Or at some point, so the guy gets 2 minutes or three or 4 minutes worth of rest at that point, and you got him right back in there again. So again, there's all kinds of different ways to coach. There's all kinds of different ways to substitute. I understand Woody's thinking process on it because that's an NBA style, I think, more than it is a college style. And we thought maybe because of last year, because he didn't do that much last year. I mean, there was rarely a time where he put in 3 or 4 guys at a time. In this particular contest, he did that. Whether that was the costly factor or not, I don't know. All I can tell you is at 22-10, it stopped from that point forward. Indiana stopped being the team that we had seen at the outset of this game.
But someone you do have to give a shout out to, Anthony Walker, who continues to be a shining star off of the bench. 9 points in this game on 3 of 5 shooting, and he only played 13 minutes. 3 of 3 at the free throw line. Man, you cannot ask for much more from somebody coming off of the bench.
No, he had 9 points, 5 rebounds. So yeah, exactly right. I like what I've seen from Anthony Walker all season long. Because he's an athlete and he's not a great shooter, but he finds a way to get the ball in the basket. He's a scorer. And I like what I see from him. And I think there are other guys too. Caleb Banks, I think when he's on the floor, sometimes he gives them a lot of energy because he plays hard at the defensive end. Mackenzie Mbako took a step back in this ball game after the beginning, in which he knocked down a couple of threes and he tends to, if he gets it going for a short time, he's pretty good. And then when he comes out of a ball game, it doesn't seem like he comes back in with the same energy level sometimes. And I think that's why his playing time earlier in the season was not as many minutes as you would expect from a guy like him, but he also struggled shooting the ball early in the season too. So he's kind of figured that part of it out. He's been able to score the basketball a little bit better, but in this game, held to 2 for 7 from the 3-point line, and he basically took nothing but 3-point shots.
Yeah, 2 of 8, like you said, he gets 10 points. But I will say this dude is money at the free throw line.
Well, yeah. I mean,
21 straight now, 21 straight to start the season, I think now.
Right.
And that shows me something. That shows me that he is still focused, that he's got a great shot. But like you said, it's something mental that either he gets taken out of his game or he whatever changes for him, but definitely something he didn't have that same spark that he did the week before. So, but and Indiana is going to need that going forward. They're off all week. You don't have to go anywhere except for to Chop Shop tonight, Don. That's your only travel that you have to do until next Saturday when Kansas comes in.
Right.
And that's going to be another epic battle. They might or might not be without Hunter Dickinson. We don't know. That would be a huge help for Indiana, I would imagine. But you still have to be able to defend the perimeter. And, man, I don't know if it was just Auburn just got that hot because they were not afraid to take any three-point shot. And not all of them went in, but 48% of them did.
Yeah.
And that's incredible. 48% when you put up 29 three-point shots.
Well, here's the other aspect of that. Indiana this year has shown a penchant for allowing three-point shooters to get going and have not gotten up into them. And again, Indiana, when they do get up into three-point shooters, they don't make them. But Indiana didn't get into these guys like they did. And that's a credit to Auburn, too, because they moved the basketball. You had to be up into a guy the entire time or he was going to get open for a three-point shot because they found him. I mean, they had 25 assists in this ball game and just 3 turnovers. That tells you again how aggressive they were at both the offensive end and what they were able to do, how and what lack of defense Indiana put on them, because Indiana, of course, was not able to turn them over. They handled the ball. They did everything. And again, that I don't want to say because I don't believe Indiana quit in this ball game. I just don't think they couldn't match what Auburn put out there energy wise. And that's the one thing that concerns me a little bit.
And not only was Auburn was very efficient. They only had the 3 turnovers, like you said, but Indiana only had 12, which is not a ton for a game, really, especially a fast-paced game like this. But Auburn made hay off of those things.
Right.
15 points off of those 12 turnovers. That's a huge number.
Yeah, 15-2 in that particular statistical area. Indiana had 2 points off of Auburn's turnovers and 15. I mean, again, the difference in this ball game, in my mind, it was all about the energy level and the toughness level. And Indiana got punched in the mouth, and in this particular case, did not get up. And unfortunately, it cost them big time because they gave up 104 points in this game. It ties the worst, loss in Woodson's career in his 3 years at Indiana now.
Yeah, and you're looking at the three-point shots, like you said, they were 48%, 14 of 29, Indiana 6 of 7. But that disparity right there, 24 points, you're looking at between there's about the difference in the ball game. They were the added points, Indiana trading 3s for 2s. That was pretty much the margin. And Indiana started. I would love to have been able to listen to the broadcast, especially at the start of this one, when India started it with 4 straight 3-point shots.
Right.
I was like, and Gabe Cupps, of all people, who hasn't been shooting at all, he started it off by draining 1. And so that the start was unbelievable, and it just didn't last.
No, it did not. And when you have a game like this, I think it is and especially for a team like Indiana that's got the new faces and all that we've talked about ad nauseum, it's a learning experience. You have to deal with it. Now, was it more of a learning experience than what we saw in the UConn game? I'm not so sure of that, but I would at least say in the UConn game, Indiana really competed hard through up until about the 6 or 7 minute mark of the second half, when the game was definitely out of line. Indiana knew it could come back. And I don't want to say that they quit at that point either. So I'm not saying that this team has quit, but maybe they've given up. They decided that we're not going to win this ball game, and no matter what we do, it's not going to help. So at some point, you've got to learn from that. And in this particular case, I hope Indiana's learned a big time lesson that you can't ever stop competing. You have to compete throughout.
Absolutely. Don Fischer, we will see you tonight at Chop Shop for Inside Indiana Basketball with Coach Mike Woodson. Is that correct?
Yep. Tonight at 7:05. Got one more show after this week, and then we'll have almost a month away from the talk shows because of the scheduling. So
looking forward to it for yourself, sir, and looking forward to seeing you this evening. Have a good one, and we'll talk to you then.
all right. Thanks, Jim. See ya.
You bet. The great Don Fischer joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Much more coming up as Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star will join us next, right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Tomorrow is Tuesday.
Yes, that's correct.
Tomorrow is a Kalen DeBoer day.
He's coming on.
Yep.
Nice.
Finalizing that now. Trying to get Michael Penix.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Yeah, that's a pretty damn good get.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had someone that could imitate Jim Harbaugh.
Like his accent?
Just like him, period.
Oh. Good morning. Are you coming from the airport today?
I am. I'm Indy flying to Detroit because this never stops. So,
boy, be careful. I did a show there once and I got yelled at repeatedly.
Did you?
Oh, I was probably talking. I was probably talking louder than you will be, but it had to look like and appear like that I was one of those, and maybe I was, total D-bags walking around with an earpiece going, well, hey, look at me, talking. Fair. And I wasn't. It was just the fact that I was doing a radio show.
I see.
How are you, sir? We're headed to Detroit,
City? Detroit. I'm in Indy today. I did fly back yesterday. And I got a little bit of time at home and, like 18 hours or so. And so, yeah, I fly back. I fly to Detroit, and then I'm taking a train to Milwaukee tomorrow. And then it's DC, and then it's Minneapolis. So it's going to be.
Do you get to keep the flight miles?
Yeah. Yeah, I get. I don't have as many of those. I'm not doing as well on the flight miles as I should, but I do get the hotel points for sure.
See, I don't. Everybody does the Marriott thing, and they're everywhere they go. They're like, "Oh, I got to get a Marriott."
So we're on Hilton. Oddly, Gannett has a thing with Hilton. So whenever we do stuff in our portal, like our travel portal, the first thing that shows up is Hilton. So that's what I got, and those have been
10 seconds, guys. Here we go. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of Wow Food Group. This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Monday. It is December 11th, and we are joined by our good friend Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star, who is a traveling madman right now. He just got off of a plane yesterday. He's back on a plane, getting ready to get back on a plane. Planes, trains, and automobiles. That's Dustin
right.
Dopirak, baby. Those aren't pillows. Where did you just get back in from?
Just got back in from Vegas, going to Detroit, so got to see. It's going to be just a totally fascinating dichotomy from game to game for the Pacers. Obviously, over the weekend, Thursday, Saturday, they were kind of the center of the NBA universe. Obviously, beat the Bucks on Thursday, lost to the Lakers on Saturday in the in-season tournament. Everybody was there. I mean, basically everybody that you could imagine in.
Dustin, I wasn't there.
Okay, everybody but you was there.
Damn.
Stephen A asked about you. So did Ernie. So did Shaq. So did Chuck. They were devastated you weren't there, man.
I gotta tell you,
we were throwing casino money everywhere. It was.
I could argue with the best of them, but I would not. I would not want to get into one with Stephen A just because he'll out yell you.
Yeah. Yes, he'll dramatically out yell you. But yeah, and also none of us can dress like him. Stephen A was bringing it. The suits were pretty remarkable over the weekend. So yeah, I mean,
Michael Penix in his suit that he wore to the Heisman Award, inside the jacket, he had all of his teammate and coaches' names inside of it.
That's really cool. I didn't see any of the Heisman stuff because they tipped at 8:30. So I missed all of that. But that's really cool. And he finished second. I mean, what a career, man. I mean, for real. What a career.
And I thought, and I'll be honest with you, as much as I wanted Michael Penix to win it, just because I can cheer for that. I knew Jaden Daniels was going to win that thing. I mean, what he did was just
heading that way. Mm-hmm.
It was ridiculous. I mean, let's be honest with you. I don't care about the 3 losses. You can't play defense.
That's
unless you're that kid from Colorado. Tag on
kids. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I forget his name, but anyway. But
Travis Hunter. Yeah.
Travis Hunter.
Yeah, of course.
But Michael did get screwed out by the Pac-12 media. Screwed him over, and I'm like, what the hell were they thinking? The Pac-12 Offensive Player of the Year was given to Bo Nix, who is not only 0-3 against Michael Penix, but 0-2 this season against Michael Penix. So I'm like, dude, robbery, highway robbery.
Everybody got an award. I mean, it's not a participation trophy situation, but all of those guys got something. Penix won the Maxwell. Nix won the, Pac-12 Offensive Player of the Year. Jaden Daniels wins the Heisman. Everybody gets a trophy, and not everybody gets a trophy. Those guys had phenomenal years. They were the 3 best quarterbacks in what was a pretty good quarterback season. Not spectacular, but pretty good. Everybody got taken care of. I mean, Bo Nix had crazy numbers too. Obviously Washington won both of those games. I would have voted for Michael Penix over Bo Nix and everything for that reason. But all the same, Bo Nix had a pretty spectacular year. We don't want to diminish it too much.
There was before the championship game, had Oregon won that game, I'm like,
he wins the Heisman. Yeah.
Oh yes, I'm like, that's going to change. He would have won the Heisman for whatever reason. He had the favorites going, but
this is one of those rare years when a conference champion, somebody who did not play in the last weekend, wins it. That tells you really how special of a season Jaden Daniels had. Was like mostly because of the way the voting works. We talked about this. Most of the people that have votes, and I had a vote, are also beat writers, and what that means is all of your Saturdays from whatever through November are pretty booked with whatever team you're covering. So you maybe get. If you're lucky, if you get to watch an other game on a given Saturday, but championship weekend, if your team doesn't make it, the team you cover doesn't make it, you get to sit there and just watch football. And usually that's when a lot of guys win the Heisman, is whoever has the best championship Saturday. And so for Daniels to win it, not playing that week, tells you how good of a year he had.
Absolutely. And it was fun. And we've got a lot more fun coming up in that, getting to watch the college football playoffs. And I'm still hoping for Washington to pull this out, and don't put it past them after what they did to Oregon. And it's going to be very interesting to see this. I hate to call it a West Coast, East Coast thing, but the West Coast, obviously a much more high flying type of offense. I almost wish Texas and Alabama are kind of similar to me. They're both defensively sound. They have offenses that are good, but they're not over. They're not a passing team. They're not a running team. They're equally balanced. Whereas Texas and Washington both, they throw the ball a lot. You got Quinn Ewers going against Michael Penix, which that's kind of cool to see. So I guess maybe it is best that it came out this way, because regardless, it's going to end up being one of those more a throwing team against a running, more of a controlled offense team.
Yeah, no, it's going to be. I mean, there's going to be two really interesting football games. In terms of, I mean, I think Bama is just going to be fascinating no matter what, because Jalen Milroe is chaos agent of the 2023 college football season. Any guy puts the ball up in the air, all things are possible. And I mean, they run the ball really well. I mean, they're obviously they're Bama, but like you have this chaos agent, the passer, and obviously Michigan keeps the ball on the ground for the most part, but has a phenomenal running attack with Edwards and Corum. That's gonna be a really tough game. Ewers versus Penix is gonna be legit, and Roma Dunze has been spectacular. I think this was one heck of a. I still have a Bolitnikov vote, The three options there were just incredible. I mean, I voted Odunze third, and Odunze's awesome. I mean, he's unbelievable. I mean, I think he'd win it most years. But Harrison was spectacular, and so was Malik Neighbors from LSU. I mean, the three of those guys were just absolutely off the charts good, all three of them. So, Washington has a legit NFL star in Odunze. Like, he's going to be spectacular and at the next level. And so, and they got – I can't remember who the other receiver is, and he's awesome too. So that's going to be a really fun football game.
Looking forward to it. Not only that, everyone listening tomorrow on the program, head coach of the Washington Huskies, Kalen DeBoer, joins us as they are preparing for the college football playoffs. He is always so kind to take time out and to join us.
Nice get, Jim. Nice get.
Oh, I love Kalen's great. I love him. He is awesome. Trying to get Michael on as well. That'll probably be a little more difficult, but just what they've done their season to go undefeated in that league this year is freaking amazing.
Mm-hmm. No, it is. Pac-12 had just one phenomenal last run. If you had to go out and it took obviously a complete train wreck of management and whatnot to blow it, but the football on the field this year was just a spectacular league. I mean, it was just good top to bottom. I mean, so many there were teams that usually aren't very good that were very good. Your Oregon State had was a tough out. Oregon and Washington were really, really good. I mean, USC might still have the best player in college football. I mean, obviously he didn't win the thing, and they didn't win nearly enough to put him in position. But Caleb Williams is probably still going to be the first quarterback taken. And they won 8 games? Did they win 7? I like UCLA was tough. I mean, like it was just a wild season.
Well, Arizona
was shit.
Washington got a lot of crap when they, went to Arizona and barely won. Mm-hmm. Well, it was like 2 weeks later, Arizona was ranked. They played like 5 ranked teams in a row. Well, it's kind of hard to stand out when you live on Murderer's Row. Yeah, no, for real. It was just. It was like that this year, and it was just. And you've seen some years where it's been the other way, where that league hasn't been good at all, and you've been like, man, like who do you even send to bowl games out of this league? But I mean, you end up with 5 in the top 25. I mean, Utah was tough. Like Utah went 8-4, and they were a tough out. And I thought, like they'd have been a problem in a lot of other leagues. Cal wasn't even bad. I mean, like just you had 4 teams at the bottom. Like. Colorado at the beginning of the year. Colorado went 1-8 in that league, and that's all anybody wanted to talk about in September was how good they were. And they had some special players. I mean, some of those guys got hurt; they weren't 100% by the end of it. But just what a year for that league. It's a shame that it has to go out like this, but they really went out. They played some special football in the last year, the last run with that group. Besides your duties that you are having to cover, which where we will get to, what were you able to squeeze in out in Vegas. What are some of the things you got to see? That was a big draw. I mean, that tournament. We're just talking. We'll talk about the Pacers next, but the in-season tournament turned out to be wildly successful. The only thing that I heard anything about was the courts. Which people don't worry, they're gone now. It's back to regular courts. Now you got to go watch Oregon play.
Yeah. Adam Silver liked them. So we obviously got some availability with him. I didn't hate all of them. There were some I liked the idea, the concept of it was, I think, right on, though, is the idea that you got to do things that make everybody know that these games are different. Like you want them to stand out, especially when they were in group play, when you're starting playing at home courts, and say, okay, what do you want to do to make it clear that this is a different type of game, that there's some additional weight on this game. And the courts, I think, helped, at the end of the day, to establish that. And someone really didn't like, I was fine with the Pacers. It looked like a swimming pool to me, and I like swimming pools. So, I wasn't going to complain about that. It had a very, kind of tropical look, and that's not, that doesn't make you think Indianapolis in late November and early December, but all the same, it stood out okay. I mean, there were some other ones, Phillies was kind of rough. Wasn't as bad watching that live as it was on TV. I think watching some of them, they also reproduced weirdly on TV. They look like your TV is broken. I think that was kind of another piece of it. It was an issue, but people took it seriously. They took the money seriously. I think
$500,000, baby. Jalen Hood-Schifino picked up a cool $500,000.
Yeah, for picking that up. And so what was cool, I think, was that, for one thing, the guys didn't act like they were above $500K. A lot of those guys, $500K is not a lot of money for them. But it was still like you wanted to win the thing. And I think they also took seriously getting money for their teammates. So I think, the Pacers get $200K for what they got. So the two-way guys, that's big money. That's a significant check. I mean, like it's like basically getting like half a year's bonus.
Hey, that buys a new Bentley, baby.
Those guys are not going to drive Bentleys, I promise. But they the two ways got to save their pennies, man, because you don't know how long you're going to get to do that. You should probably buy a Pontiac or something. I'm joking, but you know what I mean. For the guys that are going to drive Bentleys, and Tyrese Halliburton might drive several Bentleys, that's one to pocket away to purchase one of those. But still, it's obviously relevant, and the guys took it seriously. The fact that LeBron took it seriously really mattered, to the whole thing. And obviously he played phenomenal basketball, throughout the tournament. And so, definitely a win for the league, no doubt about it. Obviously, the issue is going to be this week. There's a second part to this evaluation. It is, how does everybody come off of this? And, are the Pacers going to come through at the end and be like, man, I wish we didn't do this, because, they're on for a 4-game road trip. And that's going to be tough. I mean, they go from being the center of the NBA universe till they'll get there. And today they'll just be dealing with me and Tony East in media. So it is going to be a noticeable drop off in attention, and they're going from Las Vegas to Detroit. So all of that is going to be a significant come down. They got to spend 4 days on the road, go to Milwaukee, go to Washington, D.C., go to Minneapolis. How are you still standing basically at the end of that week? There's going to be some questions asked in terms of, was it worth it for you guys to play this thing? And that will be part of the judgment of this entire event, is how everybody recovers from it.
This is now they've got to get back to real life and back to regular play. And but for the Pacers, I hate that they ended that on a down note, because it was such a meteoric rise up. But it said, hey, we're here and we're here now for a very young team.
Sure.
But what does this say about the Lakers and their chances this year?
Oh, it's pretty good. I mean, I still think, there's a lot going on out west. Obviously, this is a weird tournament. I mean, you're throwing kind of like you go from like this soccer World Cup group play thing to then you get into quarters and it's sort of like the Elite Eight. It's one time and you're done. And these guys are used to having 7-game series where it's not that level of losing you're out kind of deal. But also even when it's losing you're out, it's losing go play your regular season games. It's not like as Tyrese Halliburton said. None of you MFs graduated after this. You guys got to go play on Monday. But obviously, when you get LeBron and Anthony Davis kicking, they're a tough out. It's just how much can they reproduce that now? I mean, as good as LeBron is, as spectacular as he is for his age 39 season, he's going to be 39 in a couple of weeks here. He still doesn't have that every single night. He's still not that overwhelming every single night. And Davis has not been consistent in general. But, I mean, he was just a man among boys on Saturday. 41 and 20 is absurd. But obviously going to get into, Denver is still Denver, man. I mean, I think everybody underrated Denver last year as to how good of a champion they were and could be. They have the best player in the world. Joker is the best player in the world right now. So you still have to contend with that. Murray's been hurt, so that's kind of hurt them a little bit. But when you get them back, 100%, I think Murray's been hurt, unless I'm losing it. But they're going to be really good. The Timberwolves are playing phenomenal basketball. Obviously, your Golden States, your Sacramento's, your Phoenix. Even the Lakers. The Lakers got Phoenix twice in this event. But I mean, Phoenix hasn't been fully healthy. They got to get Beal back. So the West is still tough, and there's no guarantee that LA comes out of the West. But it does remind you that they can really be a competitor. I mean, they've got some really good pieces. They really defend. That's I think the biggest thing that really stands out to you when you watch them up close is the length they were able to bring and make it hard for Halliburton to get any shots. Jared Vanderbilt's a really, really good long perimeter defender. He is a tough guy to get past. And when you get past him, you get to Anthony Davis. So, they are going to be a tough out. That doesn't mean they're going to win the West, but they got a chance to win the West. It is possible, I think, for the Lakers to take this thing. And again, still got to get by the champs. Denver's the champs until I think they're the best team in the league until somebody beats them in a 7-game series. But the Lakers have a chance, and LeBron is LeBron, and he has not the degree to which he has not slowed down. I mean, he can't do it the same at that level every night, but LeBron's best is as good as anybody else's best still.
We've got to take a break. Dustin Dopirak with us from the Indy Star, live from the airport as he is jumping off of one game to head to another. And that's what you got to do. Back with more here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market. I assume you didn't get to watch much of anything on Saturday.
I caught a little. I got a little IU. I got a little Purdue. I got more Purdue than I got IU because that game was close. Threw a little Army-Navy in there. Yeah, so I mean, I think they tipped at 8:30 Eastern, so I was over there at like 3:30. Or no, I was over there. It was 2:30 local, so it would have been 5:30 Eastern. So basically, anything before that, most of the stuff before that, I caught a little bit of. Got a touch of Illinois, Tennessee.
I thought Illinois was going to win that game, but the SEC comes out of the unofficial SEC Big Ten deal 2-1 with Indiana losing to Auburn.
Yeah, that was kind of rough. Auburn, oof. Yeah, I mean, God, they don't have any shooters. Where having a rough night will really get you.
Well, everybody's talking about, and this is not the first time this has been a discussion, obviously, but how Woody substitutes.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it because you cannot take. They were on a heater. They were up 12. It was 22-10, and he takes 3 starters out.
Yeah, I mean, he's right that you can't play them all game.
I get that, but you have got to stagger that.
Yeah.
There's no way you can tell me that this guy can only play the same exact minutes as this guy.
Right.
Dude, they've got a timeout. They catch a breath. Let them get back in, go for a couple of minutes. You sit down and you get a blow. Now switch them out. You've got to stagger that. Yeah, that's the same thing that used to drive me insane with Archie Miller. He would start the same. His starting lineup would never change, no matter what. No matter what was going on, no matter who was hot, and that was infuriating.
No, I hear you. I mean, I get the idea. I mean, I get the idea of cohesion. I mean, and I get why. Having seen it in the NBA, I get why he likes shifts. Why he likes the idea of, okay, have taking several of them out at a time and playing guys together. But you got to have the depth for that. Like you got to have the guys for it. And
here we go, guys.
Sure.
Information 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details. This segment is brought to you by Hank's Pizza Mac. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Monday. It's December 11th. Thank you so much for being with us. Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Stars with us. Keep local papers live. Subscribe to the Star. Be a subscriber. I am. Dustin, a lot of people, and I know that you cover the Pacers and you grab what you can of the IU games, but you're up on what's going on. And because this is not the first time, in the knock on Woody is about his substitution patterns and how it is so NBA oriented, which the difference between what I keep saying is, in the NBA, you have 17 guys on a roster that are all professional players. D1 teams have 13 guys, and they're not all 13 really what you would call at the same, there. So you mentioned in the break the depth. You have to have the depth. And while I do think this is a deep team for Indiana, it's not that kind of deep to where you can take a major chunk of your starters out and replace them with substitutes, because now you're just playing your second best against potentially their first best. Who says they're coming out? And I understand they're not going to play 40 points a game, although if you look at a lot of box scores, you're going to see many where guys are playing 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So all IU has guys. If you're going to play that many minutes anyway, there's no reason you can't stagger that. There's always stoppage in play. These guys are young. They're in shape. In shape. You're going to tell me they can't get up and down the floor? And so I just think that they keep doing this, and it's not working. I said something to someone yesterday that, this is starting to remind me. While there is an upward, there was a rise, obviously, and after the Lil Rhodey regime left and bringing in Mike Woodson, they made it to the tournament. But since then, it's to me it is flatlined. This is not a continued upward trajectory with the program. I think it is flatlined.
I wouldn't. I mean, I don't like. That's dramatic a little bit. Just to say like flat, because also flatline makes you think about death. I mean it's reached a crescendo where it just kind of bumps up and down. It's not dead, but it's not. It's not going up. We're still, it's not a dramatic, it's not a straight, and it's not always like that. I mean, I think that's the other thing that's important to note. Like, it was a different he took over at a different time. He obviously had pieces that he could start with, but he also had pieces that he got. And so he's not going to be judged the same way. He had a good enough team to make the tournament his first year, and not every so you have the different ways of judging that as far as where that means you are, because obviously situation like Tom Crean, he truly inherited it at the absolute bottom, so there was a pretty dramatic upward trajectory, but his first 3 years didn't make the tournament at all and was really bad. But we're piecing players together, and it's a different type of cycle. It's like, obviously he went through his first 2 years of having an All-American that they could ride and had to, basically. And that's the other thing, is like, you weren't necessarily even starting over from with what you wanted to do. It's like, well, I've got this guy and I've got to build around him. And then you find yourself in the portal and going after everything, and what the cards that shake out on this season is a team that does not fit what Mike Woodson said he wanted to do, when they originally, basically when he was originally hired. He said he wanted to be, it to be wide open, a 4-out 1-in system. And, look, he's got two posts, and that's most of his offense, is Malik Renew and Killa Ware. And both of those guys can step out and hit threes and handle the basketball, and they're very skilled players, but they're his two best guys. And they have to be on the floor together all the time, because you can't win without them. So it has been a weird thing to judge. And obviously, hey, it's year 3. He's been in the tournament twice. Everybody, everybody chill out, for one thing. But yeah, I mean, it is a weird. He still does have some of those NBA tendencies, and I guess now that I cover the NBA, I get it. I get why you like having some of those things, because you see it at this level and what works and why it works. It's hard to walk away from. I mean, I can see why. You look at the course of an NBA game, and even this year, Rick Carlisle is less. And Andy Stump says all this is true. 48 minutes is different, 82 games is different. Older guys, there's all these kinds of reasons, but when you're playing the game in the NBA, you're used to. Phillips got a good word. Plateaued is a lot better than flatline, because flatline makes you think of the monitor in the hospital, and it's not that.
No,
but yeah, so it's not like that. But yeah, I think. But yeah, having two units, having two teams that play together entirely, two groups of 5 that they each individually understand each other's tendencies, and you're not working the 6th guy and the 7th guy into the rest of this group. Having them operate like units is easier, because they both know what they're supposed to do when these guys are on the floor. They're not reconsidering who they are every time that you're shifting a team in. They have their style, they have who they are, they have what they're supposed to bring. They know it. Everybody knows their role, and it's easier that way. And you get guys breaks and all that kind of stuff. So there's obviously more reason to have it in the NBA, because it's 48 minutes, because it's 82 games. You're not going breakneck for all of these. You have to win this one, you have to win that one. You're going to take some wins, you're going to take some losses, and when you play 82, it's different. But I get, even for a college coach going back, to be like, man, I really liked this, and I really think you can overwhelm people if you've got two really good units. I use not in a case where they have two really good units. I think they've got good players, and you look at. And I didn't watch enough of the game just to know what everybody's mad about as far as this is concerned. I look at a box score, and none of these, bench minutes are crazy. You got CJ Gunn playing 18, Peyton Sparks playing 8, Anthony Leal playing 9. Nobody's getting crazy minutes. Malik Renew and Gabe Cupps play 31 each. Killa Ware plays 29 on a night when he wasn't very good. But I get it, and feeling like, okay, why do you need to take some of these guys out so much? You're messing with flow, you're messing with that kind of thing. Why you should be able to just leave them out there. And you're probably right. At the end of the day, you're probably right that he probably needs to get out of this. I think basically that's the idea. I get feeling like, okay, you got to get used to this, and that there are, at the end of the day, things when it comes down to it that adjusting to the college game has been difficult for him. And I still think that while he has been able to go get top line talent, and he's been able to convince top line talent to come, there has been the issue of filling out a whole roster. that I think is still a thing as far as knowing, okay, how do you get guys that, like when you're used to NBA talent and you're used to looking at guys that are that great of athletes, how do you know a player who's less athletically talented that can help you at the college level that's never going to be a pro? How do you see those guys? How do you know to invest in those guys? I mean, Gabe Cupps, I think, is going to be a really good player. Gabe was identified by the previous administration. And Galloway, obviously similar guy. And so I think that's the thing that you still want to see from Woodson is being able to fill out your whole roster with guys that are not next level players, but are this level players and really good at being this level players and give you the things you need, like 3-point shooting and ball handling and stuff that just sort of fits and stuff that you need to be able to do to win at this level.
Yeah, Indiana had their best start of the season by far. They come out and they hit 4 straight 3-point shots, including getting it started by Gabe Cupps, who that was part of the issue. Gabe had not been scoring, been doing very well filling in for Xavier. Did a great job last week defensively in the Michigan game, but his stat lines were pretty empty. And while I don't expect for him to score 15 points a game, I've told people, I don't care. Your point guard still has to score. He has to be a threat to score.
Right.
And in this game, he did. He was one of 4 players in double figures, 4 of 6 shooting, by the way, 2 of 3 behind the arc. He also had 5 rebounds. So tremendous game for Gabe Cupps. But that's where they didn't get what they needed from Mackenzie Mbako, who also was hit 2 of those opening 3-point shots, but Indiana did not hit another one. That was their first 4 shots of the game. They would not hit another 3-point shot until I think it was 7, maybe 8:13 to go in the second half. And meanwhile, Auburn was 14 of 29 for 48% from behind the 3. And just do the math. And it quickly, you can see how the disparity, Indiana losing 104 to 76. And it was relatively easy. They were taking shots and Indiana refuses to take. And so that's a problem for Indiana. I'm not saying Indiana needs to be a team that's putting up 29 3-pointers. But they have to not allow 14 3-pointers to be made.
Yeah, no, I mean, you can't, like, the 3-point line matters. And if you're not going to make them, you really have to defend it. I mean, you really have to defend it well because it can get, it can come down on your head pretty fast. I mean, they had 6 threes. That's their season high. I only know this because I watched Liam McNeely on Saturday in Vegas. And, Liam McNeely had 4 threes in that game against, they played Link Academy. And that matched Indiana's season high up until Saturday. And so, I mean, it is an issue. I mean, like, you've got to be able to defend it. And, you don't have to live on the 3, but you got to be able to hit them. And it's just an issue. And they've just got to be able to build out a roster that can shoot. It doesn't have to be the best shooting team in the league, but it can't be the one that has the least. So I got to go. I got their boarding CV. So I will be back in Indy next week.
Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star. Make sure you give him a follow. He is on the road, man, covering you for the Pacers, and make sure you be a subscriber. Dustin, thank you, sir. Appreciate you. He's got to go get on his plane. We can't let that happen. John, are we? Is it time for us to?
We're up against it. Let's hit a break.
Boom.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
What'd you say?
If I'd have known Boom was going to be your out cue, I would have hit the break sooner.
I just kind of, when you said that, I was like, bam. Sorry. Yeah,
I really.
Okay.
I just sat there. I was like, "Oh, he's not going to say anything else." I'll just.
Well, I regretted it as soon as I did because I realized that's the end of the first hour, and I.
No, this isn't the end of the first hour. We're going into segment 5 out of 6.
Oh, so we've already ended the first hour.
Yeah, this is open, and then Casey Bartley unless for some reason he can't come on, which I haven't heard from him, so I don't know for sure. But Casey Bartley's supposed to do 10:20.
You might want to text him. To
Excuse me.
Jubilee Checkley.
Let me see if he. Sometimes all I gotta do is check and see if they retweeted us on Twitter, and if they do that, then I know they're coming. But if they didn't do that, I like to check sometimes. Yep, he retweeted it, so he'll be on.
Come on, dude. What was that guy's name? Come on, man. Come on, man. What's up with that? Ooh-wee. What's up with that? What's up with that? Ooh-wee. The Big Ten is weak.
Big Ten's kind of ass. I was saying that the other day, which is good for Indiana, considering I think they're less than stellar as well.
It's not good for Big Ten.
But honestly, I mean, yeah, you want it to be strong, but I think Indiana, even though they got their ass beat by Auburn, I think Indiana is probably one of the best 3 or 4 teams in the league. But that's, again, I don't think that's saying much, but I think that bodes well for their chances in doing well in the conference is kind of what I'm getting at with that. I can't believe how – and I hate saying Michigan State's bad because they've just played a really tough schedule, but they've lost every big game they've played, all of them.
Well, not just the big games.
All right, here we go, 10 seconds.
Perfection in Chop Shop Steakhouse. Chop Shop Market and Table, a part of the Wild Food Group, is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville and Evansville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is Monday, December 11th, and as always, we are grateful that you're along for the ride. Coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, high atop the 18th fairway here. Brought to you by Andy Moore Honda, don't forget, and Bubba's 33 down in Clarksville. When you're down there, or if you're traveling down through I-65, right off of Veterans Parkway. Wonderful place to grab a meal that is made fresh when you order it. Everything made fresh daily. And tons of TVs to catch a game. Great place to go to watch the Big Ten game, whatever you want to look for. I was already thinking about something that I wanted to talk about. Now I've already forgotten it. That ADHD is.
Was it about how weak the Big Ten is this year?
It was somewhere along those lines. Oh, yes. You said that because of that, you think Indiana is one of the top 3 or 4 teams. Well, I'm not disputing
5. I think 3 or 4 may be a stretch, but 5 might be their max.
I think that they could slide in the 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They're in the 4 to 8 position. Number 1 is Purdue, of course. I think that Illinois is number 2, although they lost to Tennessee over the weekend. Or it could be Northwestern, who just beat Purdue. So I guess you have to put Northwestern in the 2 slot, and then Illinois. And Wisconsin is number 4. So
they also just got their ass beat by Arizona, but they're the perceived number 1 team in the country right now.
But that's Arizona. So
yeah,
Indiana is actually in the 5 through 8 slot. 5, not 4. They're not in the top 4
Yeah, but you're assuming Northwestern's better than Indiana just because they beat Purdue. Northwestern's personnel is not better than Indiana's personnel. Northwestern plays well against Purdue. They also play well on their home floor. I don't think Northwestern's overall team is better than Indiana.
But that doesn't always matter.
Oh, it doesn't. But I'm saying Indiana could finish ahead of Northwestern. You're assuming that Indiana
they could. I'm not saying
Northwestern by saying that.
No, I'm not saying can't. I'm saying right now. This is just now. But everything when I say stuff, it's like a river. Next week, they could be in the 3 to 5 group. It depends on growth and how things go. Right now, I have them in the 5 to 8 situation from where things are right now. That's Indiana has played 2 marquee games this season, and they've just been boat raced in both of them on national television. So, which does not make a season a single loss of any kind, especially in early December, does not a season make. You do not win or lose the Big Ten in December. You do not win or earn a bid to the NCAA in December, although you can because of certain wins. But they have a long way to go, and they have plenty of time to grow. Ooh, better write that one down, John Boy. Got a long way to go and big opportunity to grow, or whatever it was I said.
And one thing that will be interesting, I know we still got a few weeks until this time, but I feel like in Mike Woodson's first 2 seasons with Indiana, at the beginning of January, we saw both of those teams struggle. I'm curious if once we jump into conference play fully, if this Indiana team will experience something similar, or if Mike Woodson can help them avoid that January slump this time around.
Well, last year, to do that, he had what would turn out to be a first-round NBA draft pick. I do not see that on this current roster. So that...
You don't think Kalel wears a first-round NBA draft pick?
I should have said guard. I apologize.
That's fair. That's fair.
He had what turned out to be an NBA first-round draft pick guard. Guards... If you don't have guards, man, it's not going to work. I mean, good guard play. Now, Cups is going to just do nothing but get better and better. And let's go ahead and bring Casey in. He can join the talk. Casey, I was talking about Indiana and the difference between, say, this year and last year. Guard play is of so much. As a matter of fact, Casey's the perfect person to talk to about this. This is what is last year. This is what prevented Purdue from being a great team. Guard play. And I'm not knocking their guards. They were freshmen. But had they had, if Purdue would have had Jalen Hood-Schifino, that's a national championship team right there, baby. I don't know who's going to beat that.
Are you trying to get me in trouble with my fan base?
No, I'm just telling you.
No, you're absolutely right. Just to alleviate that pressure and to make their lives a little easier, and then not to make the, negative plays were the downside for Purdue last year. And you have to do a whole lot to make up for turnovers. And if you don't, Purdue didn't have enough guard play with the best big man in the country. So not many teams have that to bounce on. So yeah, if you're young or inexperienced or can't shoot or can't create shots at the guards, especially when it comes to March, you kind of get away with it in the Big Ten a little bit because there's not super high-end guard play from top to bottom. But yeah, when you get out there in open waters of the NCAA tournament and you don't have a guy that can just have the ball in pressure situations and create stuff, it's hard.
And right now, looking at Purdue, Braden Smith is averaging 7.2 assists per game. Okay, let me say that again. 7.2 assists per game. So that's probably worth, 18 points a game, because if those were all 2-point shots, it's 14. So some of them are probably 3-point shots. So they're right there alone. He's accounting for 18 points a game without scoring a point. That makes a difference.
And it's not counting free throws created. You need a guy who makes everything work. Who you can't stop a guy who can dribble. You can keep the ball out of Zach Edey's hands. You can keep the ball out of big guys' hands. But if a guy can just bring it up court and create stuff, there's not an answer for it.
I have not obviously followed Purdue a ton this year, but Fletcher Lawyer or Braden Smith obviously made a huge jump. He seems more like he's accepting his role, which it's not necessarily to score. Not that he can't score and does score, but getting 7 assists a game, that's pretty damn high to average.
It's a little the opposite. He had 27 against Alabama.
Right.
And his willingness to take those shots now and create and score is kind of what's helping create that space. He's always been a great passer. He's always been a natural playmaker. Painter from day one has told him, I need you to be more aggressive. This team needs him to be more aggressive. And his ability to get in the lanes and get to that pull-up, really good pull-up shooter, is what kind of helps create the space to allow him to get that many assists and find open guys. So it's kind of a yin and yang, because if you have a point guard that's just going to pass, that's a lot easier on a defense. But when he becomes a bona fide number 2 scorer, a guy who can go get points around Edey, that puts a defense in jeopardy in a way that just a guy who passes doesn't.
Just to give you an example, now I freaking lost where they are. Indiana's leading assist is Trey Galloway right now with 3 per game. Box, Zach Edey's averaging 2.6, Kel'el Ware 1.4. Zach Edey's averaging 24 points a game. Kel'el Ware 16 points a game as our leader. And Kel'el is also the leading rebounder, as is Zach Edey. And that's relatively close, 10-9. But it's the assists and moving that ball around, but also having guards that can, 27-point outing, you'll take that all day and twice on Sunday, man. All day and twice on Sunday from a guy who is not your primary scorer.
Correct. And those are different buckets. They happen at different spots on the floor. And he's doing that while maintaining a 40% assist rate. That's astronomical. It's top 10 in college. Yeah, I'm looking at it. Xavier Johnson's assist rate has always been very high, 30+%. He's down to 17% this year. And that's a guy who's getting more of the offense than ever before. So is it a lack of making shots? Is he trying
He hasn't played for a while. He's been out for 3 games.
Oh, I do see that.
Yeah, he's been out for 3 games dealing, and actually you might as well say 3.5, because I think he played just a few minutes in the game before that.
Gotcha.
So he had a high ankle sprain that has really been nagging, and he has not played since. So that's part of the problem for Indiana is Gabe Cupps, who is a freshman backup, has been forced into that position. And then you've got Trey Galloway over at the 2, who is not, a primary ball handler, but also they're forced into that position. Speaking of which, but right now, Galloway averaging 3.1 assists. So that's not terrible, but it's not great right now. The guards that are playing for Indiana are totaling, let's see, that 3.1, and in Cupps is only averaging 1.6. That's an issue.
Yeah.
That's 5. That's not even 5 assists per game from your starting guards, people. And so that's a problem.
Yeah, combine that with not being able to shoot 3, and hard to sustain an offense
or to defend it.
Also not great.
No, Auburn. I'm not sure. You probably. I don't know if you were able to see that game because it may have been at the same time.
Yeah,
But Indiana gets off to their best start of the season from the 3-point. Their high for the year had been 4 3-pointers in a game. They hit their first 4 shots were threes that went down. And Gabe Cupps started that party, but they did not hit another 3 until there was 7 or 8 minutes to go in the game. And I think Indiana is still, even though they weren't supposed to be, the offense is still get it inside. And that has worked a lot of the time because you've got Kel'el Ware who's a great player. Malik Renew is doing good, but Auburn was able to really frustrate Kel'el Ware against Auburn, 2 of 8 from the field, while Renew, especially he come out in the second half, and you could tell what he had said, take the damn ball to the hole, because it was almost on 4 consecutive possessions. He goes right to the rack, and I think he ended up scoring 8 points. He hit 3 of the shots. He got fouled on 1 of them, but it wasn't enough as Auburn was just relentless from hitting those 3-point shots. My God, they buried 48% on however many shots they took. I said a minute ago, 27 or whatever it was. It was crazy.
I mean, that's so many Alabama made in the half against Purdue.
Now that was surprising to see how Purdue was able to withstand that barrage of 3-point shots and still managed to win that game.
Yeah, but it comes back to what you said. You need an offense that can compete with that, because there's going to be nights where teams score, they get hot. You said Indiana had 4. That was their highest on the season. 4 made threes going into that game.
Yes.
That's not sustainable in any capacity.
Well, not when every team you had played prior to that had lit you up virtually from the 3-point. And I'm talking Army, Wright State, Florida Gulf Coast.
Yeah, I mean, that's some of the people I've talked to about Mike Woodson's, coaching philosophy is the offense is still a little old school. And that there is a systematic and just core belief problem if you're only making 4 threes a game, if that's a good day, because you just can't, you shouldn't have to sustain an offense with all the skill that's around and all the shooting that a team should have. Like you have to be able to shoot better than that if you want to have any chance in the tournament, in the regular season, just against any of these teams. You have to be able to make threes.
There's no question. And especially now, it depends on what your defense is doing as well, but you cannot give up 14 threes in a game if you're only hitting 4. Right. As a matter of fact, it said earlier in the previous segment, well, you know what? Just look at the box score. Take the differences in shots. Auburn got off a tremendous amount more shots, period. But it kind of coincided with if you take the 6 made 3-pointers off of the box score, and then you compare it to the 14 made threes in the box score, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and you throw on, what was it, a 12-3 turnover advantage?
Well, not only that, more importantly, it was the points off of turnovers in that game was huge. I just talked about that a second ago. They forced 12 turnovers is not a lot in the game at all. It's the fact that Auburn only had 3, but they made money off of those turnovers, 15 points to 2 just off of turnovers. So there is a gigantic differential. Then you look at the 3-point shooting, like I said, when they hit 14, you hit 6, you do the math, 8 times 3 is 24 points, people.
It's not good to give up 100 points to someone.
No. But a lot of time left. They got Kansas coming in, which is going to be another test. Purdue, have they played Kansas yet, or is that?
No, so it didn't happen because Kansas lost in the Maui.
Oh, that was going to happen. But this week, Purdue will also. This is going to be a spectacular weekend in Indianapolis, Indiana sports. You've got Indiana hosting Kansas. You have got Purdue, I assume, hosting, even though it's in Indianapolis, hosting
semi-home.
Yeah,
it's
close enough.
Yeah,
hosting on a neutral court, hosting. I forgot. I'm drawing
Arizona.
Arizona, yes, number 1 Arizona. While Indiana's playing number 2 Kansas. How crazy is that?
Yeah, Indiana better step up because I got to watch Kansas a little bit over in Hawaii, and up and down performance. They're not the deepest team, Kansas, but when that offense starts whirling and you want to start talk about creating threes, the way the ball moves for Kansas. That would be something that Indiana should try to take away from, because when that offense goes, it's on jetpacks.
Indiana has got to find more pace to their offense. Pace is what killed them against Auburn. They let Auburn dictate the pace, and it really took them out of what they're trying to do. Again, because I think they're trying too much to do this. Let's pound it inside. And I get it. Kilauea is a great player, but it's not always going to work. What's up next for you, sir?
So we've got a little bit of a quiet during the week here. Covering,
don't say that.
There's no basketball games.
I know, but don't. You know what happens as soon as you say that. Something is going to.
I'm not going to be traveling to Canada this week. Okay, so it's going to be a lighter week.
How about pop that jersey that you're wearing there? But he's got his old school.
So I'm not a Kansas City guy, but it was a cheap hoodie. So,
well, I've got to be honest with you. I love old school stuff, but but if I'm not a fan of a team, those are some pretty bright colors to be sporting, man.
you got to stand out. You got to make a.
It looks like the only thing it's missing are the McDonald's arches on a corner.
That would make this better. Yeah,
you think?
Art shirt. Oh yeah, All American Kansas City shirt. McDonald's All American. But yeah, no, there's a lot of portal news over on Boiler Upload. Football's going crazy. Everyone's moving everywhere. It seems like a lot of people are leaving Indiana. Any talent staying?
Well, we'll let you know. I'm not sure. I've said that
Signetti did just pull in his first transfer from Wake Forest, running back Justice Ellison.
But I wonder. There will be some that stay, but none that. There are guys that have not gone into the portal, like Josh Henderson, senior running back, David Jackson. Of course, he's already transferred. So I don't know that I expect much of the talent from Indiana that has hit the portal to return. Sorsby already committed to Cincinnati. Jalen Lucas is out and about. Donovan McCulley, I know, has been hearing from Nebraska. So this is a completely different attitude from the coaching staff. And I'm not saying that in a good or bad way. I'm just saying it's different. It is not what they had been accustomed to. That's like not having eaten meat for 4 years, and all of a sudden now your dinners are going to be meat. The body sometimes may not take to that. Yeah. And it's like my favorite saying right now, and this is not really attributed to Kurt Signetti, but it gets the point across. Indiana football has gone from LEO to GFY.
Should I know what those mean?
Well, I can't say it on the air. The G is go and the Y is yourself.
Okay.
I mean, I just think it's that kind of attitude. He's a Pittsburgh guy.
Mm-hmm.
He is, he was kind of cantankerous a little bit in some of the questions in the opening presser to setting a tone. And so that's why I'm like, I'm not going to expect to see a lot of these guys that have hit the portal come back. So,
yeah, I mean, that's definitely some Ryan Walters. Like, if that's where you're going, that's fine. But like, you're done. There's no conversation about pulling you back. You're either here or you're not.
And that's how it has to be, man. You've got to be all in.
But the truth is, it's going to make that first year ugly. Pretty solid. There's a lot of talent that leaves, and you don't really have much proof of concept to pull people in. You just try to grab at the margins to hold a team together for 1 year and build some momentum. So the first year is tough. It was going to be tough probably regardless if Allen came back or not. So I feel for you guys. It's going to be a product that's going to struggle next year.
Oh, there's no question. One thing we didn't talk about, Boo Booey strikes again and slays the Giant as the Northwestern knocked off Purdue to give them their first loss in the Big Ten to start the season. That was just a game where, boy, you talk about pace. Northwestern brings it.
Yeah. The amount of just full speed floaters that Boo Booey's able to make. And it really came down to that, getting into the paint. I think if the defense had one thing they could redo, it's just you got to keep him out of that middle because he's so good there. And credit again to Northwestern, they run stuff. They run it really well, and they get the looks they want. And Boo Booey was just a one-man wrecking crew. Those shots, I rewatched it the day after, and the amount of good looks that Purdue had juxtapositioned with how difficult those shots that Boo Booey makes. It's remarkable that Northwestern did enough to win that game, but they did. They absolutely did. Second time in a row, that atmosphere gets very loud and hostile. I don't mind it when a team that's as sky high as Purdue was, they've thought they were the best team in the country. Like, if you're going to get punched in the mouth, let it happen early in the season. That's something you can always draw back to. You might believe you're a little better than you are at certain moments, and getting a loss up on the scoreboard is a good reminder that you got to do the small stuff, and you got to do it every game.
Yeah, I will say I did see, not from Zach or Edie. He is a very quiet kind of guy, very, very determined and confident. But Mason Gillis, he had a little he's probably one that got taken down a notch by that game from the attitude, which is good. But where is Purdue as far as getting results from Mason Gillis, from Trey Kaufman-Wren, and damn it, I'm drawing a blank on
Caleb First.
Well, Caleb,
no.
That's one I forgot.
I just thought you were naming fours.
Caleb First and
Fletcher.
There's one more. No, who the third guy that went to Purdue Media Days? Ethan Morton.
Ethan Morton, gotcha. So Ethan Morton and Trey are kind of at the opposite ends right now. That Trey is starting. It's not been as clean as I think Painter envisioned or wanted. Had a -20 against Alabama. That was not a game for him. Gets lost in space a little. He's just clogging up the paint a little for Smith and Edie in that starting lineup. And I got to wonder if Painter's going to go away from that here soon. It's really not. Painter wanted Trey in there to boost scoring, to really help the offense, which he felt, fell off last year. I think it's pretty clear with this team, offense isn't the issue. And with the, play of Braden Smith and the guys around him getting better, those freshman points are easier to come by for Purdue. So I wonder if he'll make that switch either back to Gillis or First, who both offer a little more outside in, a little more athleticism and defense. And then Ethan Morton, 14 minutes, didn't score, had the best plus-minus against Alabama. Just defends, moves the ball, plays really hard. His career it's weird because very smart guy, very talkable guy. His career's not gone the way that he envisioned. He was supposed to be a 6'5", 6'6", run the offense, triple-double threat at all times, and he's never been more than a bit player for Purdue. And it's the shooting. Just can't make shots. But he is learning how to really affect the game on all levels while not scoring. Best plus-minus in those minutes, played some really good defense. Had a big save on a steal that he launched forward to Lance Jones for a layup that really turned the tide against Alabama. So he's a senior, just in limited moments trying to make big plays, and it's starting to finally seem to click for him in that role. But yeah, I would not be surprised if next time we talk, Painter has a new starting five, and I think Trey will be the one out.
That's one difference that we will not have for Indiana, unless Xavier Johnson has returned from his injury, and that's been a wonder. All right, are they going to not hold him out on purpose, but letting him have this extra time? You've got a week off until Indiana plays Kansas in Bloomington next Saturday afternoon. What time is the Purdue game?
I am so bad about checking these.
You'd be both. I just happen to know IU is at 12:30, I believe, when they are playing Kansas.
4:30.
So
you can make the double trip. You can make up from Bloomington, get up to Indiana for the.
I'm telling you. So then you've got what a day, and I'm sure there will be several people doing that. Heading up to Gamebridge Fieldhouse after going to.
I know I'm the Purdue guy, so this is going to come with some mirth, but like, can IU keep that a game? Do you think playing in Bloomington's enough?
Is it enough? It's enough to keep them in. It's them. It's Indiana and how they play, what they allow teams to dictate to them and what they dictate to the opponent. I think that in their losses, that's what's happened. They've allowed games to be dictated, and you just can't do that, because when you do that, you're out of your rhythm, you're out of your offense. And I also think that Indiana has to start opening the offense up, as far as not thinking that this just has to go into the paint, and whether it's to Kalel or Malik, although Malik is great once he gets pissed off, as he did. He probably got lit up at halftime by Woody. He came out and literally, I'm like, okay, I know what this discussion was about. When you take the ball to the rim 4 times in a row right out of the half, and are pretty successful, but then, things change and they make an adjustment, but we'll see. It could be a spectacular weekend for Hoosier basketball in the Hoosier State, that is. Can you imagine if number 1 and number 2 were both to fall in the same day? And how often has number 1 and number 2 played in the same state against rival teams?
That's fair. It'll be interesting to see where Purdue is. And if you're talking to me, they're still the number 2 team in the country. I don't think Kansas's profile is impressive compared to Purdue's, but yeah, it is a big time basketball in the state that loves it. UConn, I don't know what it is why they're being left out of this top 3 discussion. They lost a lot. It's hard to break the preseason narrative of how much they lost.
They look pretty damn good. And Auburn looked good, although they came off of a loss to App State. So crazy. We've got to go, brother. Appreciate it. We'll look forward to doing it again.
Yes. Thank you very much, Jim.
Absolutely. Make sure you check Boiler Upload, Purdue fans, or if you're just trying to find out what the opponent is doing, that was our good friend Casey. So we'll be back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio and talk about the upcoming challenge for Indiana and what they need to do as they will take on the number 2 Kansas Jayhawks next Saturday at Simon Scott Assembly Hall. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the mark. It's less talking by myself that nobody wants to hear.
Well, that's fine.
Plus,
I just know that you forget the times on Monday. So
well, I was doing the math in my head, though. I was like going, okay, what time is this? But that was a good back and forth.
Yum.
One thing I disagree with them, especially on the football side, and maybe I'm just ignorant and don't know any better, but
no, it's not ignorant. It's
I don't think Indiana's Signetti team will struggle as much in year 1 as Ryan Walters and Purdue did in year 1. They might. I don't think they're going to be world beaters, but I think they'll be better than Purdue was in year 1.
I would have agreed with you, but I think
it's hard
Indiana.
to tell yet. We have no clue what the team's going to look like yet.
I think Indiana is going to lose more talent than Purdue lost. They have already lost a ton of good talent.
A lot of guys haven't committed yet. Now, some have. Obviously, Sorsby, Howland committed yesterday.
Where did he end up going?
Minnesota.
What?
They're the only guys who've picked a place, though, right?
Is he from there?
I think he's from Chicago, but I don't know for sure.
Why the flip would you? Like I would always say to Pete, why the hell would somebody live in Minnesota on purpose?
Where's Trent Howland from? Now you got me curious. I think he's from Chicago, but I don't know for sure.
Chicago, bang, bang.
He's from Joliet, so pretty much Chicago.
We're on a mission from God. You don't know where that's from, do you?
I don't think so.
Blues Brothers. They just got out of Joliet, man. They had just gotten out of Joliet, out of the pen. You never watched Blues Brothers?
No.
Oh, man, the Blues Brothers. Come on. Of course, that's before your time, but
I think a big key, last thing I'll say on the Cignetti stuff, if he can, because he kept Bob Bostad, if he can keep most of that offensive line from transferring, which I know a lot of them are in the portal, that's
let me tell you one who I bet he doesn't keep.
Who?
The big man. Matthew Bedford.
Actually, on that reminds me, Khalil Benson. I don't know what side of the line he's on. He's going to Colorado. He's another one who's already committed.
Go out and see what that Dion's like. Go and get him some prime time. Well, point in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you here on this Monday. Appreciate you being with us. Holiday season well among us. Out doing your Christmas shopping. Hey, don't forget this Saturday over at Hoosier Hanks East, right off of College Mall Road, former Avers Pub. The postgame show with Todd Leary after the Kansas game. I know there's going to be a big crowd there. Come in and join us. They'll have all kinds of specials, and we'll even have some ISB merchandise to hand out: t-shirts, hats, koozies. Do some drawings or something fun. Thanks to Pete for getting all that taken care of. As John mentioned before the break, Justice Ellison commits to Indiana out of the portal from Wake Forest.
He had nearly 2,000 yards in his career. I don't know how many seasons he played over. I think he has 1 year of eligibility left. He was third team All ACC this past season. And, looking to move on from the Demon Deacons and become a Hoosier.
Yeah, rushed for 1,900 yards and 15 touchdowns in 43 games. And in 2022, he was the third team All-CC selection. So that's a very positive. Most recently, he only had 548 yards on 120 carries and a single score in the past season. He also hauled in 10 balls for 61 yards. I'm not sure what happened in this past season for him. We'd have to research that a little bit more. But he's from Virginia, former two-star athlete. He found success in Wake Forest. He enters the program in the position group in the midst of overturn, of course, due to the coaching change. That will help without question. You see, who was the running back that hit the portal? Not Josh Henderson. Trent Howland,
and obviously Jalen Lucas as well.
He's not really running back, but
Trent Howland committed to Minnesota over the weekend.
But he was a good part of Indiana's running game. But they have Josh Henderson, a senior, coming back as of right now. That has not changed. So hopefully it does. But there's your first edition to fall there. And Indiana has a week off before they take on Kansas. The women basketball team get their first win in the Big Ten or they open up Big Ten play, defeating Rutgers up in Piscataway. I just love to always say that. So they held Rutgers to 12 points while scoring 18 just in a quarter. So that got them off to a great start. As Chloe Moore McNeil and Sydney Parrish, Indiana took the 27-22 lead into the break, and they go on to win that game by the final score of 66-56. Next up for them is they take on Evansville in Simon Scott Assembly Hall. We have got a lot more tomorrow, and special guest, coach of the Washington Huskies as they prepare for the college football playoffs. Coach of the Year, Kalen DeBoer, will be joining us tomorrow. Make sure you tune in for that. So very much looking forward to that. Big thanks to Greg Rakestraw, Don Fischer, Dustin Dopirak, and Casey Bartley as well from Boiler Upload. Most importantly, and John, the producer, for keeping us between the white lines. Most importantly, you guys, without each and every one of you, we wouldn't be here. It was great running into to some people again up in or down in Atlanta, and I'm sure there was some things that I wanted to say that I forgot. But my man Richard at Ted's Montana Grill down in Atlanta, where I had a good meal one night, gave me this hat. Ted, this is Ted Turner's place, by the way. He owns up that whole building. He said Ted still comes down sometimes and just walks around and talks to us, but enjoyed that very much. Their sign outside had a big bison on it, and I wish the hat did as well. But that's going to wrap it up for us today. We're back tomorrow with another all-star lineup, as I just said, including Kalen DeBoer, Mike DeCourcy, Chronic Hoosier. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.